Hello, everyone. I am here ready to talk. Are you ready to learn? Let's get oriented first and foremost. Let's talk about what's going on in the little window you got here. There are a few tabs for you to look at. Shar, how are you? There's a chat box, what you can type in all sorts of wonderful notes to me. Thanks for all the love I'm getting. Thank you. If you want to ask a question, there's a questions tab. You can click on that, ask a nice little question. There is a poll that I would like you all to fill out if you use CBD or not. And you can see who else is here. Look at all these people that have already shown up, and it's just 6 o'clock. Oh, sir, you're going to have to put your pants on. I'm just kidding. I can't see you guys. You can only see me. Yeah, great. This is awesome. A little note, the technology is probably going to break and we're going to lose, this feed, I'm sure, because that's the kind of luck I have. If we get through it, we'll celebrate. I think that everything should be good. It's snowy and cold here in Woodstock, and I'm super excited to be able to do a webinar for everybody out there. We're going to talk about CBD, of course. I figured I would give it maybe a minute or two more as people come in drips and drabs. I'm going to turn off some stuff so that way I don't get interrupted by anybody. I can just focus on you guys. Any questions for me before we get started, everybody? I see there's one. Do you think CBD could influence a simple ovarian cyst? I'm thinking of inflammation. It's a great question. And I'm going to say I don't know. I don't think that I have a good answer for that, and I think that we should probably talk a little bit more about what's going on, but hopefully the lecture here today will help you understand all of this stuff really well. So everybody can hear me? If you can hear me, say yes in the chat box. And then the other thing that I'd like to know is, where is everybody from? There's a lot of people from Woodstock, but I think there's people from other places. So feel free to type in where you're coming from. Look at this. Boom, boom, boom. Look at all the fun that we're having. Oh, somebody's from Florida, of course. Snowy and cold. All right. Well, without further ado, I guess we can get started with this funness that we call CBD. Let's make sure that our thing works here. Oh, here it goes. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and you're going to see the presentation entitled CB Do's and CB Don'ts. All right, how are we doing? Everybody with me? Yay. Okay, so here we go. CB Do's and CB Don'ts. First things first, we got some housekeeping. This is a really cool software service that we're using, so it allows you to rewatch this at any time. You'll just follow the same link, and you'll be able to see this video all over again. So be careful what you say, because people can see that too. Don't say anything rude or dirty, because we don't want your name attached to that. The slides, I'm going to post these tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about writing these down or can I get a copy, emailing me. I'll post them automatically. If anything comes up where I want to create something for you to download, I'll put it right at the same page. If you have questions, feel free to go nuts. I agree that this is going to be more fun than a rant, because I'm going to try to get through 40 minutes without swearing once. So, we'll see how that works out. We have a poll over there. If you take CBD or not, I'd like to know how many people are using CBD. And in typical Neal fashion, I wrote too much. I wrote too much stuff, and I think that we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to be speeding through all of this. If you don't know who I am a pharmacist, and I have a practice here in Woodstock. I'm a holistic pharmacist. So basically, I focus on lifestyle modifications, diet, exercise, stress management, along with supplements and nutritional products. And then finally looking at medications, but including medications in this whole thing to optimize somebody's wellness. So you can read all this at another time when you download the slides. One of the things I always like to say is that I'm not an expert. I'm not the person involved in CBD research. I'm not the scientist that's studying the actual results. I'm not submitting case studies and all of that stuff. I am just your translator. I am the person reading the available evidence and giving it to you in the best fashion that I know how. And more importantly, though, I'm an advocate for you. So especially with CBD, I feel like there's so much misinformation and so many problems with the products on the market that I really have to step up the advocate game here. So mostly, though, I'm just a big mouth professional who gets a little crazy and asks some tough questions. And as evident by that picture and the lighting in here, it has a receding hairline. Are there supplements for that? All right. So this is an important disclaimer that I have to include, of course. Anything that you say here that I say is not real. It's not been evaluated by the FDA. So don't stop any medications. Don't start new therapies without talking to a real medical expert that is in your circle. If you want me to be that, then yes, we can have a consultation and we can talk more to determine what your individual case may require. But this is not blanket advice that everybody should follow without first talking to your own professional. My responsibility here is to be responsible. So there's going to be no outrageous claims, no craziness, just real practical advice around products and what the current evidence shows. So CBD, in my opinion, is something that can support systems, and in my practice, as well as friends and all over the country, you've heard it. There's been so much positive feedback. And in my personal opinion, we need a path forward from the Wild West of today to a more responsible tomorrow around all cannabis products, especially the fun stuff, which we'll of course allude to because I have a very low maturity level. All right, so CBD, a natural product that definitely has value to many. We need great products and informed users. Today, we're going to cover what CBD is. We're going to talk about the legality. We're going to understand the numbers. We're going to develop a strategy to use CBD successfully, and then we'll teach you how to find a great product, all without getting ripped off. And one important thing to note is that this video is evergreen. It's going to always be out there, so I'm not going to mention a single product. I'll have pictures of products, mostly ones that I don't like, just to kind of show how silly it is. But I won't mention the brands that I currently recommend because my thought is everything changes, especially in this industry. So at the end, very end, we will talk about the products that we have and what I recommend currently, but that will not be part of the main presentation. So CB, don't get mad if you heard me say any of this before, because I am a bit of a broken record and I will repeat myself. So a lot of my analogies, I just really like to use over and over again. So when we talk about CBD, it's all bright and cheery, but I need it to get a little bit dark because it's a serious thing. The industry is a hot mess. It's a new thing. So it causes a big learning gap for patients and practitioners. I actually just spent a half an hour today talking to a vet's office who are very gun shy about using this in their animals because of the legality and the concerns about products. So there's a lot for us to learn before we can use this responsibly. It's untested. So if you look at the collection of evidence and the peer-reviewed, I guess, meta-analysis, they'll say that there's not a lot of evidence, solid clinical recommendations. What we do have is a lot of anecdotes, a lot of stories of people saying that it works really well. So we don't really know on a grand scale if this is all just a fluke or if it really works. My hint is it probably works, but right now it's pretty untested. And it's legally ambiguous. So it's sold everywhere, but it's literally illegal. You cannot debate that fact. CBD supplements and CBD in food is illegal. The next thing is like the product standards are crazy. My analogy, you probably heard it before. If you look to the left, we see 4 different types of Tylenol, and that's it. There are 4 doses of Tylenol. There's Tylenol regular strength, extra strength, arthritis, and the liquid. That's it. Every store that you go to, every generic product will fit into one of those categories. And on the right is all different concentration and doses of CBD products, and that's not even the half of it. So it's pretty crazy how much variability is out there. For a consumer, how would you know where to start or what to do, right? They use numbers that aren't important. So anybody that's looked at a CBD product, and I think I've got one here, boop, I'm going to cover that up, but it says 1,500 milligrams on the front of it. What does that even mean? Does that represent the strength? And the hint is that it doesn't. The descriptors aren't real. So basically, the labels will say hemp oil or they'll say phytocannabinoids. Does that mean CBD or does that mean other stuff? So there's, again, confusion in labeling. Our business, we have 8 different options, all of different sizes, and in my case, they're all great. They're good brands that we vetted thoroughly, and they're consistent with the quality, but that's super rare. Quality programs for manufacturers are inconsistent and in many cases not even existent. They don't even happen. Retailers are clueless. Most of them are just looking to cash in here, man. This is a gold rush, and everybody is rushing for the gold. So this grandmother here in this picture, she looks like she's experienced. She looks like she's been around the block, but most people don't understand that they're getting ripped off, right? So most people have never bought drugs before, right? Nobody's bought CBD before. So imagine trying to buy a bag of weed for the first time at age 60 or something like that. There's probably a good chance that you won't know what a good value is or what to pay, but approximately 40 to 60 bucks sounds good. Manufacturers know this, and they will price the product not based on what it should be, but what the market will bear. So it's really important to kind of have that advantage going to the table so that way you don't get ripped off. And because of all of this, my general consensus is that most retail shops are not qualified to sell CBD, and many manufacturers aren't qualified to make the stuff. Out of the dark into the light, CBD, though, is very, very promising. Imagine a day when we do know all about it, right? So we have somebody that wants to use CBD to support their anxiety, and they're taking Xanax, and they don't like the idea that Xanax and Valium and all those things have all of these dependency issues and potential withdrawal symptoms, and they're sick of taking Ambien and how it makes them feel. Imagine that with the help of a doctor and somebody like me, we can switch somebody from that stuff to something a little bit more natural like CBD. I think that time is coming, and I think that there's an opportunity for this. But of course, all things have liabilities, especially CBD. Based on what I currently am reading here is that the liabilities for CBD are a lot less than a lot of the things that are used right now. So this might be the next step in our treatment of a lot of common conditions that the American public are suffering from. So CB do proceed, but do so with caution. Like how I'm looping in all of that CB do, CB don't, right? All right, so let's get started here. What is CBD? And will you get wasted? Very important questions to ask. So this is a cannabis plant, of which there's about 80 active pharmaceutical compounds in there. The two big famous ones are THC and CBD. THC being what I call the awesome one, which induces giggles and the high. And but don't let anybody tell you any other thing. It is a gateway drug. It's a gateway directly to very dangerous things like M&Ms, ding dongs, and French fries. So it does increase your appetite and it makes you want to eat. It gives you the giggles. Some people would prefer the CBD portion, right? The chill one, the relaxation, the calming. Strains like indica, you may have heard that before, are called indicouch because they're higher in CBD, so you're more relaxed. In fact, indica has been shown to increase the gravitational pull of couches. So this is a more scientific, professional version. CBD stands for cannabidiol. I'll let you read that another point because I am neither scientific nor professional. So let's keep moving. CB do know the difference between THC and CBD. And the first thing that you CBD do need to know is CBD won't get you high. Literally, the first thing that everybody says when we start talking about CBD is some sort of crazy story about the time that they smoked pot, right? CB don't share your weed war stories. I've heard them all, right? So I can't smoke pot. It makes me anxious. Yeah, you and 30% of the population literally get an anxious effect and a panic effect from the thing that's supposed to calm you. Yes, I know that happens. I don't do drugs. I'm not telling you to do drugs. I'm telling you to take CBD. I haven't smoked pot since the 30s. Well, that was a long, long time ago. And I took 2 hits off a joint when I was 12, right? All of these stories come up, and even the most famous one, I didn't inhale, right? So we don't have to share your war stories because marijuana and hemp are 2 different things. CBD products come from hemp, not marijuana. It's 2 sides of the same coin, right? Cannabis sativa is the plant, and they're just different species. Marijuana is higher in the THC component than it is in CBD, where the industrial hemp is almost entirely CBD with less than 0.3% THC. And that's an important number to remember, that 0.3%, that's the legal limit of THC that can be in any CBD-based product. Hemp is also used for its fibrous nature, textiles and rope manufacturing. So hemp is this really great plant, super useful in a lot of different industries. So I came up with a way for you to remember the difference between marijuana and hemp. And this is going to be famous someday. So make sure that you remember that you were here and heard it first. right? So marijuana is dope. Hemp is rope. So you tell people not dope, just rope. And you can hashtag that out. That's going to be internet famous thanks to Woodstock Vitamins. All right. So remember that. Hemp versus CBD, this comes up. So what's the difference between hemp and CBD? Well, here's a great analogy that I've beaten to death. Oranges, you squeeze them, you get orange juice. Inside of orange juice, you get vitamin C. The same kind of relationship happens with hemp. So hemp is the plant. You squeeze out all the goodness, you get hemp oil, and within hemp oil is CBD. So you can actually get hemp oil that has had all the CBD removed from it. So you won't actually have any active CBD in that hemp oil. So you can just have bunk stuff. So that's an important thing to know, is that even though you might be buying hemp oil, doesn't mean that there's any concentration of CBD. So what does CBD do to us? Hang on a second. I got a question. Let's see what's going on over here. All right. I'm not answering that because, Steve, you're not allowed to answer questions. So effects of CBD. So CBD can reduce your feelings of anxiety. It has some mood modification. So there's some consideration that it may actually help with depressive symptoms. So there definitely needs more research there, but there has been some anecdotes saying that it helps. CBD in the body definitely causes a muscle relaxation and even affects the way that our pain signals transfer. So you can have some pain management or pain support from it. You fatigue and drowsiness, and that's wanted by some people. Some people need to go to sleep at night, right? So they want that that drowsiness. Are there anti-inflammatory components to it? Maybe, but I think that's something that needs a lot more study. The most important thing to understand is that there are things that CBD won't do, and there's a lot of outrageous claims out there. So like one of them is that CBD will cure cancer, and that's like not even a cool thing to say. Cancer is a very broad range of diseases. It may CBD or medical marijuana, or marijuana in general, may help support the whole process, but it may help out with symptom management, but it's definitely not going to do anything to cure cancer based on the current evidence of that's available. So it's not going to reverse any diseases. It's not going to fix all your problems. It's not going to make you a better person. Well, you're already a better person than me, but it might make me a better person if I was a little bit less anxious, for sure. So there's a lot of promise, but the charlatans will try to convince you that it's to use it in unsustainable ways. And that's something that you should not be doing, is using it in a way that is not substantiated. Who can use CBD? Well, everybody. Adults, children, teenagers, cats and dogs, everybody. Give it to grandma if you want. You can give it to your kids. It's great. The dosing, though, will vary person to person, species to species. So what an adult needs will obviously be different than what a child needs, which will be different than what an animal needs. An interesting thing to know is that products that are marketed towards a single group, that's just marketing. So you don't need a dog CBD versus a human CBD. That's just trying to get them, get you to buy a couple bottles of the same stuff. So as long as it's clean and potent and it's dosed correctly, one CBD for the entire household is all you need. So, all right, where are we now? Navigating CBD, AKA the CBD market needs GPS. So the legality of CBD is something that always comes up, and everybody's like, oh, it's legal, especially now. The hemp bill was just signed. Well, no, it is not illegal. The Farm Bill of 2018 made hemp and hemp products legal, but the FDA, who is the person that's responsible for regulating supplements, says absolutely not. And that's straight out of the horse's mouth. Right down in the bottom there is the press release from the boss man. So if you read that, it'll very clearly tell you that CBD as a supplement is not a legal thing. It is not legal to put CBD into foods. What they did say is that because of the public interest and because of the outpouring, they want to have conversations to find a pathway to make it available to people. But right now, CBD supplements are not legal. There's only one CBD product that's been approved for use in like children for epilepsy. And any claims that they make about CBD being able to treat or cure diseases is a real problem. So it's not legal. But I would say CB, don't sweat it, because it's not like they're going to raid anybody. There's actually an enforcement restriction in place, and they're not going to start knocking down doors as of right now. That, of course, could change tomorrow. But I would consider that the batting order for the people that are going to have the most problems are the people claiming that CBD does things that it doesn't, manufacturers, some really, really big retailers, and I don't even think patients would even be on that list. I've heard of people flying with it. I've heard all of these different stories. I think we're coming to a point where the legality is still in this weird gray area, but we're moving more towards black and white definitive with responsible regulations around CBD and making it accessible for people. So the other thing that's really important to understand is that the products are all over the place. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, and we haven't even like dipped our toe into the water. If you want to start CBD, besides understanding what it is, where it comes from, and all the legal implications, there's so much more to know. There's lots of different options. There's no standardized strengths, as I was talking with the Tylenol example. I mean, you can get CBD in brownies. I actually have some downstairs. Is that a good thing? We don't know. And because there's all these different brands that aren't technically required to follow any manufacturing processes, because it's a big, weird legal gray area, you have a lot of non-compliant manufacturers out there. So we still have a lot of product variability that we have to talk about. So let's start first with CBD dosage forms. And my subtitle on this one is because one or two things just isn't enough. We need to have 15 different items in this country in order for us to feel successful. So, all right. Watch the grandma references. Haha. All right. So there are lots of different ways that you can get CBD. So the first and foremost is the smoked version, right? So little pen, inhale it, and you absorb the CBD through your lungs. You have oral capsules or tablets. You have edibles and foods, which are a little bit different than the oral capsules or tablets, sublingual liquids, and topical preparations. So let's go through these. Inhaled CBD is typically vaporized using one of these little silly looking flutes here. You basically, the device heats the oil to a high temperature, converts it to gas versus like lighting it on fire, inhaling all of those wonderful things like ammonia and stuff, and burning ashes. So it is a safer way to inhale stuff, but I'm still not really for inhaling CBD. It does have a very high bioavailability, so a small amount of CBD will get into the blood at a higher rate than oral dosage forms or even sublingual forms. That's a big advantage, and it will work a lot quicker. The problem is you're inhaling it. You're applying this stuff, clean or not, to your lungs, which are a very soft, sensitive tissue. Dose titration is hard, right? So if you were using something like CBD for a proposed medical purpose, right, to treat something in the future, right, to help us with something, what do? Take 4 puffs? Like, is that the whole thing? Like, I don't understand how we can titrate the dose to make sure you're getting just enough and not too much. The other thing is, like, it's wasteful. So you put 10 milligrams into the thing of oil and you light it, and you're going to burn off a lot of it. So I'm not really a big fan. You'll have a higher total cost with CBD. I'm sure the cost per milligram is going to be low, but because you have to buy this pen and have all this like gadgetry around, I'm not a big fan of inhaled CBD. Oral capsules or tablets is another way to get it. This is a more traditional dosing form. So basically, they just put the CBD oil into a capsule or tablet. And if it's a 10 milligram capsule, then you can take 2 capsules to get 20 milligrams. The problem with oral absorption is that it's super erratic. You're not going to get consistent blood levels. One report I saw showed that the absorption is as low as 6%, which is crazy. It does need to be taken with fat. So if you decide that I do want to use a capsule or tablet because it's just more my speed, you should have so somebody will take it like a smidge of coconut oil or like a scoop of peanut butter or something like that, just to help with the absorption. Oral products will have a slower onset of action than using other dosage forms. And the problem here is that there could be waste, right? So if 15 milligrams is your dose, but you have 10 milligram tablets, you're basically blowing like 5 milligrams just out of the water, right? So like you'd have to take 2 10s, and that would get you 20 milligrams, and you blow right past the 15 milligrams that you need. So I don't like the tablet oral dosage forms because you're too restricted in the intervals in which you can dose. And all oral capsules or tablets that I've seen have had a higher cost per milligram than other dosage forms. Edibles. Now, this is just CBDiculous. Don't buy a CBD edible. There is no reason for it. Edibles are great for THC, where you're just trying to get high, right? You don't need an exact dose. You just need a fuzzy amount, right? What's the likelihood that this manufacturer of gummies is actually taking 10% of their gummy yield and testing it to ensure proper mixing? They're not, dude. They just take a big vat of gummy stuff and then they pour it into molds. So you could get one magic gummy that has all of the milligrams of CBD in it if they didn't mix properly enough. That, and the cost is super duper high. We've seen edible CBD as high as like $1 per milligram, where 10 cents per milligram is really all you need to pay for CBD. So there's a much higher cost with the same problems of oral dosing, erratic absorption, time to onset, the fat that's needed. It's just not an idea. So here's another CBD. Don't bother with CBD edibles. It's kind of silly. I'm drying up. We need a humidifier up here. Sublingual liquids, this is my favorite, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. It's typically an oil, and it can be in any base. So if you take the CBD out of a hemp plant, you can put it back in hemp oil, and then you have like a pretty kind of like a well put together product. You can put in coconut oil, one of our products done in that. I mean, you can put it in any kind of oil. You can put it in anything that somebody would want to ingest that's an oil base for sure. The thing I like the most about it is that you can really get into the minutia of the dosing. You can really titrate those doses right down to the specific milligram or even half milligram dose. When we have our patients that are pets, right, they need 1 milligram per 10 pounds. So if you need to give an animal 1.5 milligrams of CBD, you can very easily do that with the right concentration with an oil. The problem is that it kind of tastes a little bit like grass, especially if you're using hemp as a base, and the drops versus the mLs, that's a big thing. Like if concentrations are regarded as a dose per milliliter and you have a dropper, and a dropper is this unspecific volume of water, like what is a drop? If you actually try to figure out what a drop is, it'll be based on the size of the dropper and like the width of the hole at the bottom at the dropper. So I tell people to use stuff like oral syringes. These are like oral syringes. The problem is that the oral syringes, they have their own liabilities. It's kind of messy. It's tough to pull it up. But this is a way to use the liquid and then get consistent dosing. The other thing that's crazy with CBD that's an oral liquid is that the math is even more complicated. So you definitely need some help with that. There is a huge benefit in the cost. CBD is an expensive experiment for a lot of people, with starting bottles for most adults being between $40 and $80. That is a big investment for a lot of people. So you want to find the best value, and you will find the best value I've found with liquid oils. Topical CBD, this is something that's kind of interesting, right? So what if I can take the CBD and rub it on the painful area or rub it on an inflamed area? Can I take CBD, rub it in, and will it help my joints? Well, that's a lot of questions that I don't know if we have answers for. What I do know about transdermal absorption of drugs is that the dosing needs to be consistent. So it doesn't go from outside your body to right into the bloodstream. It actually like sits and kind of accumulates in the skin a little bit, and then that is what drips into the bloodstream. So you need consistent dosing at least twice a day in order for the CBD to kind of build up to a good level. One of the things that you have to understand is that in order for something to get through the skin, you have to put penetration agents in. And a lot of CBD products I've looked at don't really have that. So it's just ointment or a cream and CBD. So it's not really pushing it into the skin. And another dirty trick is they will put in a CBD ointment. They'll put in like menthol, and they'll put in camphor, or they'll put in arnica. They'll put in things to a CBD product that actually helps with pain, right? That's been proven, that's been used forever. So is it the CBD that's doing it, or is it those other ingredients? And there's an obvious reason that they're doing it, because a lot of times CBD topically won't really work for people right away. So by putting those other things in there, then you're kind of guaranteeing that people will be like, oh, wow, this $50 CBD cream worked really well for me. So if you are going to use the CBD topical, make sure that you're getting just CBD with a sophisticated base, but know that you're going to pay more, and it's going to be really inconsistent dosing. Is it like 2 globs of CBD a day? Is that what you're using? Just a little note. I also have told people to take the CBD oil and just do a consistent number of drops, 5 to 10 drops on surface of the skin, and massage it in, because what's an oil but a liquid version of ointment, right? So you can use topical, you can use oral stuff topically, which is really cool. So boop, boop, boop. All right, let's keep going. My recommendation here is to use sublingual oils. It is the lowest cost per milligram of CBD. It has the optimal dose titration, because remember, we want to make sure that we're using as little as possible. It'll have the fewest variables for absorption. So you're putting this under your tongue. You're going to let it sit for a couple minutes, and basically 30 minutes to an hour and a half, you'll notice an effect, which is really good. Most people will see stuff around 40 minutes or so, and you'll have a very consistent effect. The more that you swallow, the less that's going to get absorbed. So I think it's just your tongue. Never use edibles. That's silly. And just be careful with topicals if you're going to do it. So CBD, look to sublingual oils for the best value. CBD by the numbers. Time to get good at math, which is very difficult for a lot of people. This is something that I like to go over with everybody, because the words are used incorrectly. So let's get on the same page about that. A dose is how much you take, right? So I take 500 milligrams of Tylenol for my headache. My wife might take 1,000 milligrams, and that's the dose that works for her. So the dose is the amount, usually in milligrams, of a compound that gives the desired effect. The strength, which is also known as the concentration, is the thing. It's the product. So it's how much active ingredient is in a certain unit of that product. So back to the Tylenol example, 500 milligrams per tablet. If it was the liquid, it might be 500 milligrams per teaspoon. So with liquid CBDs, it might be 25 milligrams per ml, right? So that's the strength. There's this craziness with the package size. So how many dosing units are in the container? Well, you look at that bottle of Tylenol and it says 24, it says 100. You know that there's 24 500 milligram tablets in there. In CBD land, all of this stuff is a big mishmash. So dose, strength, and package size are put on the packages, and nobody knows what's what. So let's go over that. So looking at this little bottle here, you see, and focus on the bottle, the red circle there, hemp oil 500, right? So people say, oh, I take the 500, or I've been on the 750. Oh, I got CBD oil. Well, that is not telling you how strong it is. That's telling you how many milligrams total are in there. So it's more representative of the package size. The strength of a cannabis product is not the number on the front. This represents the total amount of CBD in the entire bottle. Read that bottom line. I'm going to say it to the camera. Doing it this way is crazy, dumb, and confusing. So putting that out there, the 500 milligrams in the total package, it's like saying, well, this Tylenol bottle has 50 grams of Tylenol and there's 100 tablets. You figure it out, right? That's a pretty irresponsible way for us to do this whole thing. CBD, don't confuse the number on the front of a CBD product for the strength. Oh, let's get into brownies. I know I said edibles aren't the way to go, but let's use brownies because they're easy to understand, and it might make your mouth water a little bit. Let's assume that we bought this CBD brownie and it was labeled 240 milligrams on the front, right? It doesn't mean that each piece is 240 milligrams, right? Because we'd want to eat one piece to get the dose, but it means that the whole set is 240 milligrams. So if each unit is one of these squares, and there's 6 squares, that means that the strength is 40 milligrams per brownie square, right? So it's not 240 per square, it's 40 milligrams, 6 times 40. CBD, look at the amount per unit to determine the strength. This is an important thing. Don't look at the front of the bottle, turn it around and look at the supplement facts panel. That'll give you a better understanding of what you're supposed to use. Your CBD dose is a consistent number that you respond to. It has nothing to do with your product. This is an important conversation, because when people start asking about CBD and I start talking to them about it, the first thing they want to know is, well, how much do I have to take to get the dose? And that's irrelevant. What matters most is how much you need to get the effect. And that's the number that you should always commit to memory. So always commit to memory that I respond to 10 milligrams of CBD. So then it won't matter what product you have, right? So let's use this as another example. What if your dose was 40 milligrams, right? Well, if I have a 40 milligrams as the dose that works for me in this situation, I can take off one of these squares of the brownie and I can get the result that I'm looking for. But what if my dose was 10 milligrams and all I have is a 40 milligram brownie? Well, I'd have to cut it evenly into a 1/4 and take 1/4 of a piece to get that 10 milligrams, right? This is complicated, right? You need to have somebody help you with this whole process. And the only reason that we need this is because of all the silly, crazy ways that this stuff is done, and there's no like good regulations about this. So I always say that you know, it's okay to just say, well, I don't know, you tell me what to do, but what I really, really want from you is to understand these things and how these things play out, so that way you can take more ownership and more control of the situation, because you know, you really want to be in a place where you're making more informed decisions around CBD and not just going with the flow here. So just to review, the dose is how much you take, usually in milligrams. The strength is how much active ingredient in a certain unit. So, you know, 40 milligrams per brownie piece, right? It's the concentration. And the package size in the world of CBD is that big number on the front. So that's how many doses. So if you got a 500 milligram CBD, and your dose that you take that works for you is 10 milligrams, that means that you'll have 50 doses in that 500 milligram package. And that's all it's telling you, is just how many doses you'll have. Dosing ranges are extremely wide, right? So if we're going down this path of, okay, so what dose do I use? We have to understand that there's really no established guidelines. We just have a few little bips here and there of doses that will work for people, as low as 1 milligram all the way up to 30 milligrams per kilogram and beyond. So for me, I know I got to lose weight. I've talked about it before. That's 3,000 milligrams of CBD a day. That's $200 of CBD every single day that I would have to take if I needed that high of a dose. So you can see that that range you could drive a truck through. So, you know, what is going to you is probably going to be much, much less, but you have to understand that the evidence has shown that not everybody will respond to low doses. They will need higher and higher. Some people will need higher and higher doses of CBD in order for it to be beneficial. This is a little graphic that I've made up for use to make it a little bit easier for people to understand. So if you look at this as a scale, hi, Missy. Good to see you. If you look at this as a scale, on the far left side, we have low doses all the way up to super insane high doses. And what this is telling you is that basically, if you're using CBD for its anxiety support features, you're going to be using it at low to middle doses, right? Most people are responding for that stuff in the low range. Again, I've had people take super insane high doses of it and nothing happens, right? But this is just a generalization. For sleep support, same thing. It's going to be lower doses and you're kind of getting into the high range. If you're looking to help out with pain, CBD doses are very varied and up into these crazy doses. Most of the trials around pain management with CBD and marijuana shows that the doses need to be high, and especially the stuff with the epilepsy in children. That's the 30 milligrams per kilogram dosing, which is this huge number. So know that the dosing ranges are super duper high. Now, do you start out taking CBD in the super insane level? No, that doesn't make any sense. So we have to have a better strategy for approaching CBD. Let me keep moving because we're getting time. So, you know, the first time should be special. If you've never used marijuana or CBD products before, you're going to respond differently. So light a candle, get Barry White going, right? We don't know how you're going to react. So we want to see if this will work, especially if you're inexperienced. Now, that was a good joke. I don't care who you are. So the strategy that you're going to implement when you're using CBD is to start low, go slow, but go. Thank you. We want the lowest effective dose when we're using any medication, any product, right? So we want to use the absolute lowest when we're using drug therapy, when we're using supplements, when we're talking about our food. We want the lowest effective amount. And the two reasons why is to minimize the side effects. Most importantly for me is to keep the cost down. I want you to not have to spend $1 million on CBD. So if you don't listen to me, for example, and slowly increase your dose over time to creep up to the dose that works for you, and you blow right past it and you take 100 milligrams in your first dose, great. It relieves your pain or does whatever it is that you were looking for it to do, right? But what if 50 milligrams gave you that same level of pain relief? Well, now you've just wasted half of the dose, but you'll continue to use the 100 because that's what you responded to. So the strategy has to be start low. So the starting doses for most adults are around 5 milligrams, and at bedtime should be around 10 milligrams. I personally respond to 5 milligrams pretty well, right? Our product that we sell to, that we give to most people, it ends up being like 6 milligrams. So again, it's just approximate. So 5 milligrams in that range is where most people should start if they want to start on the dose of CBD. Now, again, most people will need more than just 5 milligrams. That's just where we start without overdoing it. Kids, it's going to be tough. Some older kids, probably 5 milligrams, but mostly less for younger kids. But that's where you would want to speak to an expert. And pets, the current data, literature, advice says approximately 1 milligram of CBD for every 10 pounds that your cat or dog weighs. So the big dogs need big doses. And the range for pets goes from 1 to 6 milligrams per 10 pounds for most conditions. So boop, 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 boop. Any... Susan Alexander just asked about what the CBD carriers such as glycerin and ethylene glycol, are they bad to inhale? That's a great question. I want to actually answer that right now. That's why I don't like vaping, right? So this whole like vaping trend, the stuff that goes into vape pens and to vape liquids is the same stuff I used to put in my fog machine when I was a DJ when I was 19, right? So it's the same exact stuff. And they had big warnings on there that said, do not directly inhale. Except now these young kids are just piping this stuff into their lungs and breathing it back out. So my personal opinion, again, is I don't like inhaled CBD because of the exposure to this other stuff. I don't think it's good for people to be exposing their lungs to high doses of polyethylene glycol and such. So back to dosing. CBD dosing is trial and error. So you start out with your first dose. You wait 30 to 90 minutes. Did anything happen? If so, you're a cheap date. Congratulations, because you're just like me. I can get away with a very low cost, and I get the results that I want. If not, you need the next part of the dosing strategy, which is to go slow. So increase by 5 or 10 milligrams, and you can literally do that the next time you dose. But go. We want to make sure that you start at a low dose, you increase, and you increase aggressively. So don't wait and take the same dose for times. Some people may have heard me use this little anecdote, the story of a customer that was using it in their father at a nursing home. And they were doing the same exact dose every day for 14 days, and it didn't work. And then she said, well, after 14 days, it started to work. And I said, well, what changed? And she said, well, we doubled the dose. Okay. Well, I said, well, you could have done that literally on day 2, and you would have gotten the same results as that. So don't waste your time with that same dose. Increase as much as your body allows. So it can be used up to 4 times a day. And Duncan, I'm actually going to answer that question pretty soon. So I will hold that. So with liquids, there's a big problem coming with the dose, and this is something that we can kind of get into more detail at some other point. But basically, how do you get this dropper in your mouth and get the right dose? So it's tough. I recommend the oral syringes, or the brand that we carry has a calibrated dropper. So if you can get your hands on a calibrated dropper that shows you like what a 1/4 ml, 1/2 ml, 3/4, full ml is on a dropper, then you're going to have much better results, and it's going to be much easier to use. So CB don't confuse drops for your dose. So one of the things I always hear is, oh, I take 5 drops of CBD. That's like saying I take 6 capsules of Lipitor. What does that even mean? Like how many milligrams do you take, right? So use the calibrated dosing tools when you can. All right, so I will answer Duncan's question. So like, how long does the effect last? So essentially what happens is you need to establish what dose helps you, and then you need to figure out how long that effect lasts. So from my feedback that I've gotten for people, somebody was using it for some joint stiffness, right? I want to try it for joint stiffness. So take a dose before bed, and I said you can probably need to use it up to 4 times a day for that. And they said, well, actually that bedtime dose lasts me until 2 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. So for that person, he only needs to dose twice a day. 2 o'clock, and bedtime. Some people need to dose 4 times a day. So it's really about finding what dose works for you and how long that dose lasts. That's an important thing. Finding a good brand, needle, meat haystack. There are lots of problems with CBD products. I've met and spoke to too many owners of CBD brands, and let me tell you, they are living out the stereotypical Cheech and Chong, I'm going to open a weed business, right? As this industry matures, I'm sure we're going to see more business people getting in that understand all of the implications and quality controls and stuff like that. But right now, you just have these random people that are involved. Hemp in particular, because it's a plant, has a unique set of contaminants, right? So if you think about it, there's stuff that we spray on the plant that we have to worry about, pesticides and herbicides. The soil that it's in will cause the hemp to the hemp will pull up any of the gross stuff that's in the soil. In particularly, heavy metals are a problem, like lead, arsenic, and mercury. Hemp in particular is a hyper accumulator, which means it earns its name weed, right? It's pulling up everything from the environment pretty non-discriminately. So you have to be extra careful of the farming environment that the hemp is raised in. On top of this, we have to be concerned about what methods are you using to extract out the CBD from the hemp? Are you using industrial solvents that are potentially carcinogenic, like hexane, or are you using something like supercritical extraction, which is just carbon dioxide or even some grain alcohol or something like that? There are effective, cheap, dangerous ways, and there are effective, a little bit less effective, safe, environmentally beneficial ways. So all of these are concerns, but a lot of people aren't really thinking about it. It's going to be near impossible for any consumer to have enough information to determine if a brand is truly high quality. It's tough for me. I tell people all the time, we have moved to private labeling or contract manufacturers of our manufacturing of our own products, Woodstock vitamin stuff, because they're legally required to give me all of the quality data. Whereas other brands, I'd have to just trust that they're going to be a little transparent. And as time goes on, they're becoming less and less transparent. So imagine CBD companies run by, some schmoes, and they don't even know what to look at. They're not going to be sharing that. So transparency is key. Is the brand posting their test results frequently? If they are sharing, are they testing correctly? Are they sharing often? So I've got a couple examples about pesticides, which is very interesting. So I go to a CBD site. They're like, oh, we share all of our quality data right on the site. And they had a pesticides test, and it listed 3 stupid pesticides of the 35 or 40 that you need to look for, right? So, while, yes, they're testing for pesticides, they're not testing enough. The next problem that you have to think about is how often are they testing? So a lot of botanical companies will test a new contract manufacturer the first 3 or 4 times that they use product for pesticides and herbicides, but once 4 tests come back positive, they'll just randomly test after that. I don't think that's good enough. I think that they should be testing every single time, because who the heck knows what's happening? And in fact, we switched one brand from being excellent to good just because of that. They stopped testing as frequently as every lot. And the new brand that we brought in, we convinced them that they should be testing every single lot. So that's an important thing to know, is that I'm a pit bull and I can't even get the information I need. So it's going to be really tough for consumers to be able to get this information. But an easy way to check is to look at cost. Now, cost isn't related to quality at all in the natural products industry. You can have a $50 supplement that is garbage, and you can have a $12 supplement that has just tremendous value. But in CBD world, if you look at the cost per milligram, that's a great indicator of value. So of all the brands that I've looked at, I found prices from good to excellent were like all over the place, right? So we had really high quality stuff, and we had ridiculously high prices and super low good value prices. So when you plot them all out, I found 10 cents per milligram is the best value of CBD. This is where you actually use that stupid number in the front of the bottle, the 500 milligrams or the 1500 milligrams. You take the total cost of the CBD product and divide it by the amount of CBD in there, and that'll give you the cost per milligram. It may seem like, oh, well, Neal's saying 10 cents is okay. Well, this product was 12 cents. So that's a small difference. Well, no, that's a 20% increase. We've seen stuff as high as 90 cents per milligram. The local dispensary was charging that much. It's expensive for a weed license, so I'd imagine that's where they're trying to make their money back. But that's insane when you can get a high quality product for less than 10 cents. Topical products, oral doses, and edibles will have a very high cost per milligram compared to oils. I just got a question about the shelf life. So most of these are good out like 1 to 2 years. The expiration testing on most of them that I've seen have been 2 years. So they should be good like that. The oils won't go rancid as long as they put the proper antioxidants and such in there. So, that's the big thing, is that when you put a chemical compound in oil, it's not going to degrade like it would in water. What's going to happen is the oil is going to go rancid. So after a year or two, especially in home storage conditions, it's just going to get a little skanky a little bit. So you just want to make sure that you're using fresh stuff. It's time to go over what we learned here, people. AKA stop talking, Neal. So CBD from white belt to green belt. So I wanted to revisit a bunch of concepts to reintroduce this stuff. I think it's super important. CBD has tremendous potential. More research is definitely needed. The clear-cut regulations have to be put in place, putting the consumer first, not these mega corporations that are just trying to screw us all over. And we have to have a modern, progressive mindset. Like, the thing that makes me most nervous about the FDA statement is like, ooh, it's not really a supplement, and it needs to, go through a whole new drug process. And it's, get over yourself. Let's look at it as a supplement, because it's been around forever, and the only reason that it doesn't have the status of all the old stuff is because we've been prohibiting it for way too long for stupid political reasons. So I really think CBD should be a supplement that people use. So I hope the FDA, kind of wakes up to that. Understanding the nuances of CBD, including the strength, dose, package size, and dosage forms, is super critical to helping you make a better cost-effective decisions. If you choose to start CBD, you start low at 5 to 10 milligrams and increase using trial and error, going slow until that works. So go. My final thought, this comes up a lot. Don't treat your medical care, especially CBD, like you would choosing a restaurant while you're on vacation, right? This happens all the time. I understand what you're saying, Neal, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go read a few blogs. I'm going to look at reviews. I'm going to go on some forums. That's no way to make health decisions, right? So if you're going to Patagonia and you want to know like what is a good excursion to do, use your review sites. But if you have allergies, or if you're looking for some sort of medical treatment, a random stuff on the internet is really not a good way to validate what you want to do. So defer to the experts and the professionals. As always, my brain comes free with every product, so you'll never be on your own if you need help from us. I wanted to say thank you to everybody. You will get 15% off your CBD purchase. If you make it tonight online or over the phone, we're going to send you a link in the thank you email. I'll also push one to you right now. So in the email will also be a link to a survey. Please fill that out. That will help me know if I did a good job or if I stuttered too much or said right and so too much. If you make a purchase and do the survey, I'll also send you one of our really cool t-shirts for the apothecary here. Let's see if I can get that on camera without it being crisscross, where the aging hippies get their drugs. So check that out. Or I can even send you one of our Let's Be Honest Woodstock Vitamins ones. So CBD, call me. Right? If you have any CBD or wellness related questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. There's my phone number. There's my email. If you go to woodstockvitamins.com, you click on the chat thing, it goes right to my cell phone. So all of our pharmacy customers see me on my cell phone, think I'm texting with my friends, but in fact, I'm actually answering internet questions all day. And our wellness consultations are free. If you want to get into that, you can just go to woodstockvitamins.com/consults. And CBD, do join us again. And I want to look over and answer all of your questions. I will be here as long as you want me to be. And we will do a little question and answer session. So let's see here. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Shar, you're the best. All right. Any questions? Yes, another bus shirt. That's funny. Let's do this. Why don't you... When effective, how long is the effect? We answered that. Side effects, drug interactions, and yada, yada, yada from Selma. Hi, Selma. So side effects of CBD will be related to what it already does, which is sedating. It is drowsiness. Some people might have some confusion associated with it, right, Steve? I took a little bit too much CBD before a conversation with an employee the other day, and it was interesting. I got a little bit too much. I think I overdosed by about 5x. But yes, drug interactions are a real thing, and it's something that we have to be concerned of. The literature that I've seen around drug interactions, the case studies show that it will have drug interactions, but it's in that super intense, silly high dose range. So like 30 milligrams per kilogram a day, which a lot of people won't get to. And you know, looking back through history, people have been smoking pot and taking their prescription drugs for a long time without concerns of drug interactions. So I really feel like when we have more data, we can conclusively say that drug interactions are a factor of high doses. But I would still use caution when you're using CBD if you take medications. CBD will interact with a ton of drugs because it's affecting the same enzymes in our liver that and our gut that are metabolizing everything that's important. So, you know, stuff like warfarin and statin drugs and stuff like that. So let's see here. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so this is a great question. How does the quality available with a medical marijuana prescription compare to what we sell? So if it's done right, it would be the same. So CBD at a dispensary versus CBD here will be the same. The only difference that I've seen is the cost. The cost at a dispensary is always like through the roof compared to what we can do. And there is no difference in quality. One of the things that comes up is, yeah, so right, Charlene, the best uses are pain or anxiety to chills. That's what people are using it for, to kind of take that edge off, right? They want to, you know, take that little bit off. I'm going to do this. I'm going to send real quick. I'm just going to send everybody a link to the products. So here's how it works. We put the products on our site, but we didn't put any indication that they're CBD products because of that legal gray area. So they're only going to be there for a little bit. So I'm going to put the link to the product page if you are interested in seeing what we have. And I will do woodstockvitamins.com/collection/CBD webinar 2019, I think. Let me just see if this is what does it. I think I just forgot the silly link. All right, let me try it again. I'm new to this. This is actually good that it worked. I'm surprised. We had music before. We had pictures of my children. How cool is that? Well, I'm not even going to be able to push this out. So anyway, you can just whatever. Check the email. It'll have all that stuff there. All right. So boop, boop, boop. There will be a link. You can see this again. We're going to put it up in the future. Thank you for coming, everybody. We appreciate it. And Kristen, thank you for the compliment. Does your body need more and more CBD over time? Does it become less effective over time? Would it need to be increased? That's a great question. Big question mark there. I would assume that there's some level of tolerance that builds up to any of these products. I'm also assuming that the doses needed to cause tolerance are going to be outside the range that most people will be using. So again, we're on the lower side is what most casual users are using it for. So I think at that point, there's not going to be a lot of accumulation, but we still need all of that data. We need the pharmacokinetic data to know how our bodies handle CBDs so we can make these decisions more wisely. So if you use it for sleep support, are you drowsy the next morning? Mike, great question. One of the reasons that I've switched almost entirely from recommending any of the other traditional botanicals to CBD is because of the stuff I highlighted about it being very predictable. We know exactly when it'll start to work. We know how to track the quality stuff. And the biggest thing is that you don't have those liabilities of the traditional botanicals like valerian and holy basil and all of these different things, right? So we like CBD because if you wake up in the middle of the night and your mind's racing and you want to try a dose of CBD, this is the feedback that I've gotten, is that you can do a small dose of it and it doesn't leave that hangover or fuzzy foggy feeling the next day, which is super duper cool. So there was a note about PTSD gets in the realm of where THC will succeed. If we're talking about just like anxiety and maybe some depressive symptoms, the literature is currently pointing towards CBD having a great role there. But if you have like traumatic experiences, it seems that the CBD, the THC is the better one. So you'll want a combo. What about drug testing? Do you need more CBD if you take one without THC? Okay, so this is a good question. So will the 0.3% THC found in a lot of CBD products show up on drug testing? If you're nervous about drug testing, just get a CBD that has 0 THC, which we have those. Those are the ones that are in coconut oil. If you end up on the site, and the CBD THC thing is a big question mark. We know that THC will have some sort of amplifying effect on the CBD, right? So they work synergistically together. The THC will make the CBD receptors work better, is like what the preliminary stuff says. But we don't know how much that is or like if that caps up. So I am waiting for us to get the data that says, yes, this is exactly the amount of THC that's needed to make this dose of CBD more effective. Until then, and again, for the conditions that we're talking about, the things that we're talking about, it's super low dosing, so probably CBD by itself is fine. Can it be useful for arthritis? That's a good question. I think the feedback that I've gotten from people is that it can be. When I was looking up CBD the first time, it works on the mu and delta opioid receptors. So those are signaling pathways that opioids use. So there is some pain mitigation. Arthritis, the big thing to know here is that I'm not going to be recommending CBD as first line for anybody. So if somebody that has arthritis, it's going to be eat less inflammatory foods, eat anti-inflammatory foods, exercise, do lots of stretching, working the wellness pyramid, use omega-3 fatty acids, use a good dose of collagen. And then once you've done all that, check off all those boxes, then adding in that next level, adding in that CBD for relief is where we would go. Some people want to skip directly to get some relief so they can do all that stuff, and that's great too. So all of that is a good option. So you're welcome, Missy. Good to see you. And Ginny Casey. Ginny, thank you. Appreciate it. Interesting information. I got a question on the question tab. CBD and gabapentin, will they interact? I am assuming that there will be no drug interactions at the levels that we would be using them in. I don't believe that gabapentin is metabolized along those same pathways. I'd have to look it up, but I will go with my standby that the drug interactions are only happening at the mega doses. And CBD and Lyme disease treatment, Steve, that's a good question. So Lyme disease, especially post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, is a painful process. So using CBD may be beneficial, especially if there's any anxiety-related symptoms. The same kind of thing, the achiness, the pains, the muscle tension, all of that stuff may have Lyme's, may help out with that post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome. So that is that. All right, so I'm done. If you guys don't have any questions, I think I'll take off and then we will do this again. Answer the survey. Tell me what you want me to talk about next. I really like doing this webinar thing. This is cool. I've never had 60 people in a class. I've only had classes of like 8. So it's pretty cool. And thank you again. Any questions coming in at the last minute? Could you take the oil under the tongue, cause a sore throat? I don't think so. It shouldn't be that big of an irritant. In fact, if anything, hemp oil has like anti-inflammatory compounds in it. It's one of those oils that has lots of like, healthy fats. So I would think that it wouldn't be a problem. So, all right, everybody, I'm out. And thank you very much for joining me. And we will talk to you sometime soon.